Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. So, I almost did not film a video today because I got a haircut, if you can tell, and I absolutely hate it. So, kind of the last thing I wanted to do was film myself, so we're going to keep this brief, which is best since I don't have much to say. Mr. Blake saved it as best he could. After he saw it cut, he was like, "You look like Lady Mary from Downton Abbey," which is amazing. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about the Downton Abbey movie really quick. So Mr. Blake goes, "You look like Lady Mary," which is the only thing that could have saved this haircut. I loathe it. I don't know what happened. I asked for the same thing as always, and it ended up being this like, it is very 20s, but also something went wrong. It isn't taking the right shape, and also Lady Mary has bangs. But anyway, yeah, so the Downton Abbey movie is coming out, and I'm just learning that people like Edith, which is so weird. Like, I have done so much ill-wishing towards Edith while watching the show. Sidebar, if any of you ill-wished me, it worked. Congratulations, you've come into your witchery. I hate my hair. Moving on. But yeah, some people like Edith. This is a mystery to me. I think, it might be Lady Mary Crawley is very like Pansy, the way that I write her in The Commoner's Guide, who's also very like Maria Antonova from One for My Enemy. I'm pointing to my bookshelf as if that means anything to you. But anyway, these are all the same type of woman. And I am aware, theoretically, that some people don't like them. But yeah, finding out that there are people who are like rooting for Edith was so strange to me. I don't have a whole lot to say. The most recent question I was asked was just about what I've been working on, so that's pretty much all I'm going to chat about. Oh, I will say that Mr. Blake has started watching this docu-series about the San Diego Zoo, and I'm like not super into this because I am not the animal enthusiast that he is, but my favorite thing about it is that he has been monologuing as the animals, like in an animal voice, and it is delightful. It's fantastic. If I could ever get you a transcript of this, I would do it. It would be worth it. We would all have an amazing time. He'd never forgive me, but that's fine. That's what's new for me. Actually, I have other new things, but I don't want to talk about them yet. I will just hint evasively that many of you have said that I should write scripts, and someone else agrees with you. That's all I'm gonna say. That someone was not me. I guess it isn't not me, but anyway, you get it. You don't get it, whatever, we're gonna move on. I don't like to talk about things before they happen, but once they happen, I will start talking nonstop, so then you will get to enjoy that, I'm sure. I'm sure it will be super enjoyable for you. Okay, so what am I working on? Right now, I'm very in love with my most recently finished manuscript, which is Awe of the Night Approaching. It is basically the women of Game of Thrones meets Moana, so it's in that like fake ancient Hawaii Pacific Island world. It is about the two women very similar to nobility. You get one who's very like cunning and careful and is very precise and deliberate with everything she does, and then you get one who's just kind of like all her decisions make sense if you follow the thought process of someone who will do absolutely whatever it takes to get to where she wants to get. Yeah, really love this part of the feminist power anthem, is that I am quietly refusing to not take any of the explicit sex scenes out. They're not super explicit. I wouldn't say it's anything like what you would find in some of my like Draft of Living Death. You wouldn't find anything that explicit, but there is sex. It does happen. It is important to the plot. Male authors have the right to write sexual assault. Then I get to write my sex scenes that people actually want to read. And if those people happen to be women, it's crazy. Women can spend money too. That's Awe of the Night Approaching. Well, I mean, that's not Awe of the Night Approaching. That's just my secret behind the scenes thing about Awe of the Night Approaching. It has what I think are some of my best lines. I'm really excited about it, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, which is going to be the theme of this. You're going to watch me repeatedly get ahead of myself and then pull back. So anyway, Awe of the Night Approaching is being revised currently, and then we'll see what happens. On the film topic, I am thinking about turning Alone with You in the Ether, which was originally called Turn, into a movie script, because I woke up one day and I woke up from, I guess, a dream where I was watching the movie. It will require probably a lot of money, so I would need someone else to make it. But I kind of have this idea that if the prose part of this book, so the reason that I haven't wanted to self-publish this book is because it's literary, it's not fantasy, so it's not what Olivie usually writes. It's not really about the plot so much as it is about the emotions and the relationship and being inside the heads of these two characters who both have mental disorders. One who acknowledges it and doesn't treat it, and one who treats it but doesn't acknowledge it. It like self-medicates in a strange but a way that works. So the important thing about this book is being able to express what's going on inside their heads, and I had a recent idea of how to do that visually. So I'm gonna see if I can make that work. But we'll see. Someone asked what's like going to be published, and I will get back to that. This is just all the stuff I'm working on. My latest story for Which Way magazine that is going to come out not this coming month. This coming month is going to be the conclusion of Pars Fortuna, which is about a witch who's kind of based on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's running for Congress, and she's got this really idealistic campaign, but her magic is that she's lucky, and she meets someone who kind of, his stars throw off her stars, so it's kind of thrown her into this spiral of bad luck. Similar to the film Just My Luck, which I haven't seen in a million years, but I think they swapped luck. In this, she just becomes very unlucky. And they have a very cute courtship that is filled with accidents. She also gets a bad haircut, so maybe I did this to myself. But anyway, so the next story is called The Magician's Assistant. It is about a courtesan who is hiding her witch powers, but she meets this sort of like terrible magician. Well, so he's not a real magician. He is sort of a delightful con man. And she has this idea that if they could turn it into a legitimate magic show, then they might actually make money off of it versus him just like doing all the sleight of hand and then robbing the audience. So the first installment of that is coming out, what month is it? September? So not October, but November is when that will come out. I've got a new fan fiction. It is called How Lady Vengeance Takes Her Tea. I am very excited about it. I know nobody else is, and that's just how it happens sometimes. You know, it's really that fantasy, fairy tale quality. A character is possessed by a demon. It is enemies to lovers, so it is a throwback to my favorite kind of relationship dynamic. And so I'm very excited about it. If you are reading it, thank you very much for being along for the ride. And then that's what's going on right now. I'm in a very historical romance type place because I want to try my hand at writing a historical romance, like that genre, and I don't know yet how I want to do it, so I'm kind of trying it out a few different ways. So thank you for being part of my experimentation process. This plot specifically I thought was perfect for the Draco and Hermione dynamic because it's two people who absolutely hate each other to start with, are absolutely on board with killing each other until XYZ. So yeah, that is exciting to me. The next thing is La Petite Mort. I'm so sorry I can't pronounce things. I am a disaster. Anyway, so that is the story that I wrote in installments for Which Way magazine, which is coming out as a novella published by Which Way in October on Halloween. So that's currently going through revisions. That book is going to be available. It's going to be illustrated by Little Kimura. I am designing the cover, but most likely it will involve Little Kimura's art, prominently feature it because I love it. And actually, specifically, the illustration she did of Elizabeth Clavier is one of my favorites she's ever done. I actually describe Elizabeth as the fragrance is overly sweet, like dead roses. And so there's like dead rose petals coming across it. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm really excited about you guys getting access to it if you are not subscribers to the magazine. It's a fun story. It's perfect for Halloween. It's filled with the creatures of New Orleans, so there's that. And then the Atlas 6 will be available for pre-order at probably the very end of the year. It is taking me a little bit of time to write it just because I have so many projects going on, and it does involve quite a lot lot more research than I was expecting, with learning more physics than I have ever needed to know before. I'm not awesome at science. I was one of those girls who was the last of the straggling women in STEM in high school. Actually, Aurora and I talk about this all the time because she is a woman in STEM, and I am very proud of her, but we have talked many times about how difficult it is as a woman to be good at math and science, and then you find all these barriers to it. Male teachers don't really encourage you. I know my math teachers didn't. If I was struggling with something, they were like, that's fine, you're an artsy girl, you don't really need to know this. By the time I got to my AP chemistry class, I was the only one left of those quote-unquote artsy girls. You know, by then it was like the really studious pre-med kind of girls, 3 of them or whatever, and then all the rest were boys, which I don't know why I'm bringing up other than to say that we should support women in STEM. We should support women in everything. We should support women. But, you know, I certainly don't want to preach to you this early in the morning. Yeah, so I never got past chemistry. I didn't study any physics, so this has been like a whole thing for me. Is I don't really understand how any of this works, despite the fact that Mr. Blake is a high school physics teacher. The irony does not escape me. So anyway, the world, I think, will feel familiar to you in the sense that it is an ensemble kind of heist situation. It isn't a heist, but it does have that feel. It's very like The Magicians, it's like Kingsman, where these hyper-talented magicians get selected for this academic fellowship. They get thrown together, they have to work together, there are battle scenes, there are relationships that fall in and out. It is the first of a series, so ideally you will get very attached to these characters. I am certainly very attached to them. This is actually my 3rd complete rewrite of these characters. I have played with them and their chemistry so many times and not quite gotten it right. Like, the world just hasn't been right for them, and now I'm thinking, this is the one, this is the scenario. So very How to Win Friends and Influence People, very Masters of Death, in that it is very much about an ensemble with characters who really get along, characters who really do not. I'm mostly a comedy, a very different take on magic than I've written it before, as I've kind of hinted at, because their specialties are very different, and they are reliant on various types of science and psychology, etc. Yeah, I am really excited. I'm very excited about Parisa Kamali. She is sort of new. She used to be a minor character. I've said I've worked with these characters in various forms at this point. So she used to be a minor character, and then I really amped up her involvement in the plot, and she is delightful because she is my mouthpiece for saying all the things I want to say when the world is stupid. So there's that. Tristan Kane is very ornery. He is very accustomed to being underestimated. He has a very rare talent, but it's not very useful, or he doesn't see it as very useful. So he's got this like chip on his shoulder. I guess if anyone is a Theo, it might be him. The darker, the angstier version of Theo, it might be him, or he might be a little bit of a Draco. He's got a chip on his shoulder that he's really got to deal with, and he does end up falling in love with someone that he most certainly should not, which is going to cause problems for him. Like I said, classic Olivie, and hopefully you guys will get excited about that. Okay, well, I've already talked for longer than I intended to, so I'm going to stop now, and I'm actually going to get to work on the Atlas 6. I actually consulted my boxing teacher for how to write a 2-on-1 fight scene, and so I'm going to work on that now. But yeah, so send over any asks if you have them. If you want me to read anything, let me know. If you want to hear about what I am currently reading, I slowed down a little bit because I have been reading a lot of research. I've been doing a lot of research on the Georgian era. I have been reading physics books, science, and I'm now reading Big Little Lies, which, well, I am rereading it, but I am really loving my reread. There's a lot of stuff that I forgot about this book, so yeah, Big Little Lies for Spell for September. I'm also very excited about October's reads. It'll be 2 books because you will have most likely read one of them. So it's going to be compare and let's talk about their compare and contrast. Oh my God, am I teaching an English class? Okay, well, in any case, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next week.